Welcome back to the Means of Grace podcast. We are grateful for your presence here today. I am Jesse Ennis, the Director of Communication for the Leadership Development Team. And you are, sir?
And I'm John Yeager, pastor at Calvary United Methodist Church.
And I'm Jonathan LeMaster-Smith, a certified lay minister in 2 churches and a United Methodist Studies professor.
And we are currently at Lake Junaluska. Today is Saturday, June 22nd. It's about noon. And we are here to give you a little bit of a wrap up on how things are going so far at annual conference this year, 2024, recognizing that there is still some business to come, but we wanted to go ahead and get some stuff recorded. So
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and do it.
First off, I do want to say that I'm glad Jesse knew the date because this whole thing has been so full of stuff that I just have lost track of time.
A lot of us have lost track of time for sure. Yeah,
cramming a lot into 3 days.
Yes.
So let's cram a lot into a podcast.
Let's do it.
So we started off with the Jesus is the true vine was kind of the message that we wanted to get across. The bishop did, John 15. So that was what was playing through all of our minds as we were doing our business. So we opened up on Thursday with the clergy session. It was great. It was wonderful. We followed that up with the celebration of the ordinands, commissioning and licensing. We had a party for them. There are 3 deacons being ordained and 7 elders. So things are going really well. The other things that happened on Thursday night was the Emory dinner, which I get to talk about because I went to Emory. It was great. We had it at Bearwater Brewery, an axe throwing. It was fantastic fun. If you're a Candler graduate, I hope that next year you come. Aaron Rubel will appreciate it. All right. Also, this is Friday. We ready for Friday?
We didn't talk about the workshops.
Yeah,
we did the workshops. I didn't do the workshops.
We did not promise this would be in order.
No.
Okay.
Workshops.
So prior to the clergy session, there actually were several workshops, pre-conference workshops held around various topics. Jesse and I both were part of some. And Jesse, you want to talk about yours first?
Yeah, so I had the privilege to be a part of the Fresh Expressions workshop with Charles DeRico, Reverend Charles DeRico. He is the pastor of the Word on the Street ministry, which I participate in through the Hope Chapel that we do every Thursday in pretty much uptown Charlotte, next to Roof Above. And so we got an opportunity to kind of walk through the history of that and to have, kind of share our experiences with that. And then also I offered our experiences starting a new Fresh Expression called the Common Table, which we've really only had 2 events so far. It's a once a month dinner church, and just kind of sharing 2 totally different perspectives. So like the Word on the Street ministry is primarily for folks with food insecurities, whereas the Common Table is primarily for folks who are lonely, who are looking for community. And so just kind of giving folks some examples of fresh expressions that our church, the conference has, so that they might be inspired, so that they might start to create their own fresh expressions. We had quite a few folks who are from the rural church. And so since Charles and I are in the Metro District, we actually had an opportunity to kind of sit with them and talk through how they would approach taking some of the things that they learned from us and using that in a rural community. And so it was actually a learning opportunity for us as well.
Great. And speaking of rural, I led a workshop on getting acquainted or reacquainted with the rural church. And that was designed to offer a space for people to learn some of the cultural, social, and spiritual realities of rural spaces. And so we had people who had been in rural ministry for decades, and we had other people who were like, I'm going to a rural church next year. What do I do? And it was great. It was a lot of, I talked a little bit, but it was mostly a lot of story sharing and idea sharing around the table with people about people's experiences, about people's things they've tried, ways they've shifted. And it was a really life-giving experience. I heard very positive things about all the workshops that happened. So I think that might be something we keep for the future.
I certainly would affirm that. And also, too, I mean, if you didn't have an opportunity to come to one of the workshops, I'll speak for myself and say I'm open to having conversations. If you'd like to reach out to me by email, you can find my email on the conference website. because I love talking about this stuff, and I really do feel like it's, the future of the church has to involve fresh expressions. And so if folks would like to talk more about that, I'm always open for that.
Same for me. I'm part of the town and country ministries of our conference that we're just getting revitalized. So we're getting ready to start offering workshops, webinars, and different resources for people in rural communities to continue to explore that. We may partner with Fresh Expressions in the future to do some new things.
That sounds exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody tell Luke, you'd be excited.
Yep.
Got some people coming your way, Luke. All right. Anything else on Thursday?
Nothing but ice cream.
Nothing but ice cream.
Ice cream was good.
It was good. So Friday, things kind of got cooking on Friday. First of all, the bishop started us off, and Jonathan's going to kind of elaborate on this by saying that 2548 and 2549 are not going to be used in this conference for any form of disaffiliation. That season has come to an end.
Yeah, so 2548 and 2549 usually have to do with church closures and use of church property. Today, we did close 4 churches using the processes in 2549, but those churches appropriately. Well, yes, appropriately. We used them appropriately as churches had worked through the process of deciding it was time for them to move into the next chapter of their life as part of that. But in some other areas of our denomination, there has been use and there has been outside influence trying to get us to use 25, 48, and 49 as an exit path for congregations that may want to leave. The reality is, though, that requires the consent of the bishop and the consent of the trustees of the annual conference. And the bishop assured us that he would not give his consent for a church closure or a deeding of church property that had to do with moving to another denomination or intentionally leaving our denomination as part of that. Now, that's not to say that the bishop isn't open to conversations about what to do in the future of the church, but it is to say that we're going to find a way that is not being influenced by outside parties.
Or manipulating already
Yeah.
things in the discipline that are there for a good reason. And
Yes.
that's right. So that the bishop shut that down right away. And that's, and I say that mostly, and if you were at General Conference, you would understand that season was hard. And the bishop named that. That this past season has been incredibly hard, maybe far more damaging and painful than we thought it was going to be. So the idea of opening it back up again, I think, was quite unpalatable for most of us, and the bishop, I think, spoke for us very well there. Right after that, Reverend Linda Ferguson brought the house down.
You're actually going out of order now.
What did I do now?
The worship was before all that. So
worship was before.
Yeah, so again, we're not in order.
We did not promise
So John's
that we
gonna
were
talk about
going to
the
do this
worship
in order.
service.
If you would like to see the schedule,
There are some schedules
there
out there.
is.
That's
The
right.
full schedule is on the website ac2024.org.
Yes.
.org. So if you'd like to see the schedule in order, which we did not promise for this podcast, that's where you can find
This is a
it.
synopsis. You gotta just, that's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're back to Reverend Linda Ferguson.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought it was phenomenal. But I also I'm a huge fan of Reverend Linda Ferguson, so I'm very, very biased.
I just love, even with this all that, I just love the music and the feeling of being in Stewart with the building shaking from all the people singing.
You can hear from outside too.
Yes, and you can actually look at, you can watch this worship service on the conference YouTube channel, and there's highlights of her sermon on the news.
And that's one thing that I would like to mention, that her sermon kind of reminded us that of our connection, especially to the vine that is Christ, and that it enables us to live abundantly and to serve others. And that's really what the entire annual conference has been about. There are some takeaways. I'll mention a few of them here. The necessity of pruning, and we know that we've been through a season of that. The inclusivity of Christ, the power of our connection, and the open table. And so we just affirm and celebrate all of those takeaways and all the ways that we continue to live into that.
It was great. You want to talk about rules?
Yes.
You want to talk about rules? Come on, Jonathan. You want to talk about rules?
I have my rules right here. After the bishop and some of the procedural matters that we have to take care of at the beginning of annual conference, including electing the bar of the conference, seating all the representatives from the various churches and districts as part of that, we then, of course, get into our standing rules and our organization for the conference. This year was fairly benign to start with. It was really just a statement that We are going to be reducing some of the numbers on some of the teams and committees and agencies of the conference because we've had a population shift. And also, some of the teams actually really work to readjust their goals for the future and write that into our plan of organization and rules so that if someone has a question about what does leadership development team do, they can go straight to the organization and rules or to the conference website to find out what they do as part of that, because we want to make sure that we are clear what the ministry and organizations of our conference do. For some reason, we had to take out hats out of the rules. Hats have been put in the rules in the ways that you cannot campaign for delegates to general conference and jurisdictional conference using rules. We thought using hats, we thought that was a little redundant. So we just said that's just part of the campaign restrictions that we have in place. But then there was there was a lady session on Thursday night. Yes, following the clergy session, we had a lady session. And there were some members of our Conference Council on Youth Ministries, or CCYM, there who were empowered to ask me, the chair of organization rules, to help them craft some rules changes that would say that we want youth on every conference entity they're allowed to be on. Whatever committee, team, agency that they're allowed to be on. And that came to the floor of annual conference during that. And what that does is trigger a rules and organization committee meeting and several good conversations. I had conversations with Kim Ingram, with John Crane, who was the conference lay leader. Kim Ingram is the conference secretary and director of ministerial services. The bishop had some notes for us. And we hopefully will present those this afternoon at the business session. And you'll find out if they passed if you pay attention to the e-news later.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Bet they will.
Yeah.
But you never.
We would like to say we support youth as part of that. Yes, definitely.
Well, and I'd like to say too that when you brought that up and when Joseph
Navarro
kind of led us in that, it was well received by everyone in the congregation that day.
Because we are a congregation gathered.
We
are
definitely
what it feels like.
Gathered. And so, it was very well received. I mentioned to Joseph after that I heard grumblings, and he's like, "What do you mean? Good grumblings?" Like, yes, we heard good grumblings.
That's right.
People are very much on board for this. So
y'all want? Why is this important? What?
Well, I see. We know that came out of General Conference is that we need to continue to focus on young people.
Yep.
Do you want to say why?
Why?
Because at General Conference, we struggled to find
a youth present at General Conference, and we had to find others to assign to certain teams as the discipline requires as part of that. So we want to go ahead and say we want to empower youth and young adults to be on as many parts of our conference as possible. One of the things we're going to suggest with that too is if a youth is on any conference entity, they are assigned a mentor on that team that has experience on that, so they can be advocated for, trained in how the organization works, and then and then just mentor to say, it's good that you're here. We want to support you here. How can we help you learn more? What can we do for you? What is your input? We don't want you to feel like you're just here as a figure, but as a person who's part of this team.
Which is why I think the second part to that, when it was talked about yesterday, that not only does a youth have to be on every committee, which is just, I love that so much, but
we will say every committee except for those that prohibited by the Book of Discipline or other rules that we have in place, because we don't certain things require that you have to be over 18 to be on them.
But the second part, can you speak to that? What was the second part?
The second part is that all conference entities must take into consideration the schedules of youth when they are making their meeting times. Because even the same in churches, it's hard to find meeting times for everyone. So we want to make sure that we take into consideration the availability of everyone when we do this. Now, of course, that may mean that the youth may not be there every meeting, but not every adult is there every meeting. Is the reality of ministry, reality of committee work.
That's true, and that means that we're going to have to change the way that we do certain things. But of course, if we want to continue to move on toward perfection, that's going to mean that we're going to have to
and bring the church along, into the modern day, which seems to be getting faster and faster.
Yeah.
So we need them. Yes. It's a need that we have not been,
and we're just living into our adaptability
and so that's just I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to talk about that happened on Friday was the Bible study that was led by Reverend Dr. McGray de Vega. He actually is the new pastor at Hyde Park United Methodist Church in Tampa, which I happened to attend while I was at the University of South Florida while Jim Harnish was there. I did. So that was a really neat connection. But also he brought back up what Linda talked about with the pruning.
Yeah.
And what I gleaned from that in particular was the moment where he said it's painful,
Mm-hmm.
And
reality.
I feel like we've kind of very, very lightly talked about pruning over the decades, as if, we're doing some very serious pruning, by doing all these things. But I don't think we knew what pruning, pruning really feels like. And he was.
And it's surprising because physical scripture is littered with so much agricultural language around pruning and harving and
death and resurrection.
Yes.
And he really spoke to that.
Yes.
And I thought that was a powerful message that we needed to hear. Y'all want to talk about Pass the Mantle?
So I got the privilege of being a part of the worship team for that. But it was great to experience it in a little bit of a new way this year. So we had the folks that are up for ordination this year to be a part of that service. So it was an actual passing of the mantle between the folks who are up for ordination and our retirees. So it was a wonderful service. I'm going to be biased and say we had some great music, but also
you don't say the guitars. It was particularly good.
But also, the folks that spoke, and I just thought it was a wonderful time.
Yeah, Ashley Crowder Stanley. She was poignant. She talked about just loving what we do and how crucial that is. It's hard.
It is,
but to love it.
Yeah,
and to soak it in and take that as you get to do this, and that's
and
a
the bishop
wonderful message.
And then the bishop also, as he asked the questions, reflected on those questions and how important they are to us, not just as clergy and laity, but to the entire church. So it was great.
And I just think about the biggest thing for me is always when they sort of name the years of service or the acknowledgement of all these people walking across state, the number of people they have impacted as they retire, and we celebrate that. The same with the memorial service that's today, that we get to celebrate the ministry of these people again and again because they have continued to ripple through the connection and to offer us.
And continue to.
We'll continue to. The stories continue. Their impact of their life and their churches and their communities continue, and it's such a powerful thing that we need to honor that just as much as we need to honor new ministers.
Absolutely. And the bishop pointed out that our retirees are a blessing to those who are new into being ordained, and how much of a blessing those that are new are to those retirees as well. That it's a mutual relationship, and I think a lot of times in our culture we tend to just be very separated. We have names for those that are younger and those that are older, and we kind of we end up being a lot more separated. But I love the fact that we not only put language to that mutual blessing, but we actually lived it out in that service.
Definitely. I mean, it's just knowing that even some of the retirees will go on to serve in official and unofficial capacities, continue in ministry, serving small churches, mentorship, being on conference committees.
I know I need a mentor.
And agencies. I mean, yeah, exactly. We want to keep having their wisdom with us.
Exactly.
And Reverend Tammy Ingram, she brought the fire.
Yes, she did.
It was perfect. Ashley Crowder Stanley was just it was poignant and calm, and how what we do is a blessing. And then Reverend Tammy Ingram got there. All right, young people, it's time to go. It was amazing. It was great. It was powerful, and I loved having those two things together. That was really great. Connect. Shall we connect?
There's a lot of connecting going on.
There was a lot of connecting. There was D&D connection, which was I stopped in there. It was great.
D&D standing for Dungeons and Dragons.
Of course, everybody listening knows.
For those of you who don't do tabletop
for.
or campaign games,
it's that tabletop game that was really old now. That's right. But we have a few people who are really committed to it, and actually, we had Jonathan Gaylord as the dungeon master. That's the guy who leads the whole adventure that everybody goes on. And he's a pastor in our conference.
Go ahead. And then Checkpoint Church, which is one of the new church plants in our conference, run by Reverend Nathan Webb, held a board game gathering. I didn't go to his board game thing, but he walked past me carrying 2 rolly suitcases and 2 more on his shoulders. I think he had a board game for everybody here.
For everybody.
It was very Oprah. You get a board game. You get a board game.
Wasn't there a slide that said something like "Jesus loves nerds" or something?
Yeah, so that is coming out. That is coming out of his church. He worked with Shannon LeMaster-Smith, our conference youth and children's ministry strategist, to create a curriculum that utilizes his YouTube videos that are nerdy sermons that have resources from anime, from board games, from video games, from the Barbie movie, to create resources for anybody. It's geared towards youth and young adults, but any group can use it because it's just sort of a discussion guide toward the YouTube videos. So he has those on his JesusLovesNerds.org, I believe. I don't know. It's one of the slides.
We're gonna look it up.
It's one of the slides.
We're gonna look it up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're a bunch of nerds.
Yeah,
we are.
Yeah,
Metho nerds, I believe, is what Reverend Dr. Aldovito. Bishop. Oh, I apologize.
Bishop Reverend
Bishop
Doctor.
Aldovito.
Bishop
Reverend Doctor.
Get it right.
And then we had a fire. No, not that kind of fire. We had a bonfire. It was fantastic.
That was a lot of fun. That was a great time. That was co-sponsored by the Conference Council on Youth Ministries. And we had trouble getting the fire started because they forgot a lighter. But we eventually found it. The fire got started. And there were 2 guitars, a mandolin, and a trombone showed up to play.
A trombone, yes.
That was a lot of fun. We had a great time. So many hymns, praise songs, and just fun camp songs. We had some representatives from our camp and retreat ministries there. It was a lot of fun.
So I wonder...
Oh, that's right. There was a climbing wall, bounce houses.
Yes.
There was a band that was playing through the decades, playing all kinds of stuff. It's just a lot of fun. I walked by the climbing wall, and there were just kids having a ball. Their parents looking nervously on, but the kids were having a ball.
So it's really interesting being in a service and looking out of the window and seeing kids just... Mission
that is right.
Impossible
They had
style.
set that up before the worship service finished, so there were children rappelling down a wall.
It was great. No, it was
Mission Impossible style rappelling, and
that
you're
was
like,
fun.
where are these children coming from? Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I also want to point out, I wonder where people's minds went when you said there was a fire, because some people might think of Pentecost, Holy Spirit fire, and then some people are like, oh my gosh, John burned down the annual conference.
To be clear, he is John.
Not heard about it.
Exactly.
That's right.
This is John. I'm Jonathan.
Yeah. So comment and let us know where your mind immediately went.
Where was the fire
when he said there was a fire?
We didn't start the fire. All right. So Saturday morning.
I had to be up very early to go speak at the United Methodist Rural Advocates Breakfast, which is one of our sort of paradenominational caucus groups that help support rural and small church ministry. I gave a report on how General Conference did work to support the rural church, including empowering rural churches to do contextual ministry that is also connected to the whole of that conference, and that it always should first be incarnational, no matter where ministry takes place, to experience the risen Christ wherever we are.
And as a parent of 2 small children whose children are still home, I slept in.
Well, speaking of rural life, we officially decided to do a Rural Life Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is in the Book of Disciplines, one we can do. We've had it for several years, but it fell out of the books at some point. I think it was just an oversight over a few years, but we reinstated it as a permanent special Sunday in our annual conference.
That's right. Kathy Randall Bryant brought that to the floor, so thank you, Kathy.
Yep. She did a wonderful job. We are recommending it be the 6th Sunday of Easter or another Sunday that your church finds useful, and we suggest taking up an offering for a rural ministry, whether one of our denominational rural ministries or a rural ministry in your community.
And as a person who pretty much grew up only in the Metro District, I'm actually looking forward to celebrating that and seeing, the folks in my church who may have grown up in a rural church and kind of hear from them and their experiences as we celebrate that together.
And even if you're in an urban area, you rely on rural communities to do things like grow your food or provide resources that aren't available in cities. And it's a wonderful thing. We are connected.
We are connected. And
yes.
So I'm looking forward, as someone who, like I said, is a pastor in the Metro District, celebrating something that's not local to me, but I know that I'm being blessed by.
And because we are part of the itinerant system, you may end up in a rural
I might end up in
we never know. That's not reality.
Know. Yeah,
right.
You never know. So yeah, let's start celebrating now.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about the bishop.
Well, we've said a lot about the bishop, but the bishop is a very dedicated person.
He is very dedicated.
He received a special award this weekend. He was added to the Society of John Wesley, which is a historic society that just celebrates the people in our denomination in the world who exhibit the key characteristics of Wesley's work.
That's right. And he has exhibited that over these few years, and it was lovingly received by everybody in attendance. And I could tell that he felt a special point of pride when his wife, Pam Carter, put that on his lapel. Yes. That was a special moment.
And that was work of...
Congratulations, Bishop.
I believe that was the work of the Committee on the Episcopacy, the United Methodist Men, and the United Methodist Foundation co-sponsoring to celebrate him in that.
Absolutely.
And it's for me, it was kind of cool that even though this was a surprise, the bishop always has a speech ready to go.
When you get elected to that kind of office, I feel like you need to always have at least a slide deck of speeches in your head that you sort through. You kind of have to.
He just got right to it.
It was a good one.
It was
I don't know which pocket he reached in, but it was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah.
Earlier today, we talked about the 4 focuses of the church, which I think is really important for folks to be reminded of. The vital churches and fresh expressions, our commitment to anti-racism in the church, our commitment to having healthy spiritual leaders, which is not just clergy, but also our laity who are spiritual leaders in their own right, and our focus of renewing our United Methodist identity. I think there's so much going on in the world that, and there's so much that the United Methodist Church does that sometimes it's really hard to remember what we're really striving towards, like what our mission really is. And so I appreciated hearing.
And what I think the key thing the bishop really pointed to is these all relate back to our mission to make disciples.
Exactly.
We can't make disciples if we don't have healthy clergy. We can't make disciples if we don't remember who we are as United Methodist and don't have vital congregations or aren't striving to eliminate racism and injustice around our world.
Yeah. No, there's a method to our madness, and we just need to. We haven't for a while now figured out, how our method fits in today's world, and it's hard.
Yeah,
but it does.
But
every generation, it does. It's just hard work.
And I think we are trying. We're doing the work of offering resources. I just think so many of the organizations, leadership development, Conference Council on Youth Ministries, are doing leadership development in really good ways for people ranging from 9th grade up until there are, I'm sure, leadership development programs for people in retirement at this point so that they can retire and serve well. As part of that, we're trying hard to continue to develop good leaders, healthy leaders.
Young leaders. Yep. Absolutely.
I do think we need to speak to the reality that we celebrated the United Methodist Foundation today, giving a donation to the conference, their annual tithe, and it had a surplus this year. So it was, what's the number, John?
$237,000.
Yeah. That will be used for the ministries of our denomination, of our annual conference. It was lovely. He keeps dropping his pen.
I keep dropping my pen. It's fine.
We just need to name it at this point.
Taking notes.
Yes. Oh, what else happened today? What else happened? We had we did establish several. We talked about young adult ministry. We actually established a young adult missional network, and there is also a young adult task force to engage. And they have come up with lots of goals and ideas for ministry in the church.
New ones.
Right?
New. I was going to say fresh, but that's a whole different.
Yeah, the new ones that also really, even though I don't think they talked, aligned with those 4 areas of focus in a really good way. As part of that. So it's just we can see, that we are, like as the theme of the thing says, we are connected to each other, and even if we're not in the same room together, we seem to be vibing on the right frequencies.
Oh, now I'm going to get the bishop's quote wrong. A healthy church is an intergenerational church.
Yes.
Ooh, I got it.
You got it right.
That's right. And I think we are being, not for the first time, but maybe for the most in my time, intentional.
Yes.
About forcing it to happen, not just saying we really hope, or we desperately want.
Well, I think we're emerging out of a time that has been very painful and stressful for a lot of people, and I think this is us saying now we're going to focus on the discipleship work of the church, the incarnational work of the church, and just really double down on these are our goals, and this is how we're going to do it, and we're not going to get it right every time, but we're not going to compromise. We're not going to compromise. We're going to keep improving and growing and doing, and I think that's some of the beauty of what we're doing here. We are trying new things, and we're doing life together with Christ.
Yep. One of the things I was really inspired by, Luke Edwards spoke about, just a lot of the conversations that he's seen online that talk about, this expectation that the United Methodist Church is going to die in 10 years or something like that. And he made the joke that as a nerd of statistics, he hadn't seen that trend. And as a matter of fact, we see so many other signs of growth instead. And so we had an opportunity to see a lot of those different ways. And I can't remember the number of different fresh expressions that he made.
Oh, gosh.
It was so many fresh expressions and innovative work.
over 200.
It's really doing.
Over 200 fresh expressions.
And I'm sure there's some more that are going to emerge out of the inspiration that came this
Exactly.
week.
100%.
I just think of the deep time, people coming up and
Powerful.
just naming, name dropping Kendrick Lamar as a theologian, and like that was calling down some revival there. And I think that's the big thing is that that was a moment of revival and saying we can do this and we can do this with everyone, and you can drink good coffee
and be Wesleyan.
And be Wesleyan,
with
yes.
the person ministry. I mean, all of it. That is such a perfect example of how it can be fit into today. It's not ancient. It can be, and he's doing it. That's good stuff.
So I think we just got to just now.
Yeah, that's right. We have just we have like one more day left.
Just half a day plus sermon tomorrow. Just worship tomorrow morning.
Indeed. It hasn't rained. It's been hot, but not too hot.
It's actually a little better today, I think.
Better today, yeah.
And I will say I'm looking most forward tonight to the service of licensing, commissioning, and ordination. That's always a powerful service. It is sort of that celebration. We have the retirement and the memorial service, and then we have this ordering of ministry service that will have the number of people that you can go to every one of these services and have seen people who you've connected with as part of that.
I've made so many, reconnected with so many people this week, and that's so much fun. I bumped into, I say reconnect, just connect for the first time. I bumped into a guy, he had a University of South Florida Bulls shirt on, which just happens to be where I went to college. So I just ran up to him. Hey, who are you? Yeah. I'm a Bull.
I think you've dropped University of South Florida 3 times.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to get in maybe the newsletter there or something for the South Florida Bulls. I haven't been on there.
And you dropped Emory at least once.
At least, Emory needs to be dropped more than that.
Yes.
I'm not wearing the shirt today, though.
Well,
but it was a great connection, and he has his roots back in Florida, so he was there when my father was pastoring down in Florida. It was a neat reconnect moment.
Yeah, and it's like connection overload.
It's really, and I'm sitting at a table for the Town and Country Ministries, and people, when they realize I have old-fashioned candy and recipe cards, people just wander over there, and I'm like, well, make sure you look at the back of it. The Western Carolina Town and Country Ministries information is on that. And I will tell you that I've run into met so many wonderful people, and people I've known for years, and just only see them up here.
Yeah.
People who want to connect further. After today,
let's even just to be my friend, not even just to learn, not even to like be my student or a colleague, but just to be my friend, want to hang out.
Or do some people just want to do ministry? They're saying, hey, I know you're kind of in the area, let's do ministry.
Yeah,
together.
exactly. Or I need to pick your brain about rural ministry or Methodist polity, and
let's have coffee 2 weeks from now.
I did have one person who approached me because she recognized me from the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah. So word's getting out. But also just had an opportunity to see some folks that I met at Duke before I knew that they were a part of our conference. Had an opportunity to see some folks from my previous appointment that I hadn't seen all year, so that was a lot of fun too. I celebrated my birthday yesterday at annual conference and got a chance to celebrate with my clergy friends and folks that I've known for a really long time, but folks that I got an opportunity to meet recently. And so it's a really cool way to spend a birthday. So
that is a cool way to
we celebrated John Wesley's birthday last time we were here, and now we got to celebrate mine. So it was
exactly
good.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a fun way to do it.
It's been so great. And I think it's just the rest of the time together, we've got a little bit more business, but it's really going to be about celebration of people. And tomorrow's worship service is always life-giving as we're sent out by the bishop.
It is.
It has been celebratory on the whole.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful
And I have had
conference.
a lot of ice cream.
There seems to be a lot of the ice cream is the theme this year.
It is. There has been extra.
And then we also went to Kilwins for ice cream too.
No, well, so you got ice cream and you went
exactly.
So as much as life together has been a theme, life together with ice cream might be.
However, I did bump into other Methodist clergy at Kilwins.
That is the benefit of it being here every year is that you run into people if you go to a restaurant,
and
at the gas station, there's a Methodist there.
We all forget to take off our tags.
We
wear them in the restaurant.
I was at the grocery store and another pastor is just like, hey, I know you from somewhere. Yeah, we're part of the same thing.
We're part of the same thing.
Welcome to the connection.
So it's been good.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say?
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I know that coming up in the United Methodist calendar next, our jurisdictional conference is in 3 weeks. Some of us will be up here for that. Yep. It is how that the jurisdictional conferences are how we sort of order the life of our regions in the United States, including how we assign bishops, how we go about adopting any sort of missional values for that, and also, some of the people here were nominated to be on general agencies, and the jurisdictions elect people to be on those as part of that. So we did nominate people for the general agencies of our church, things like Board of Church and Society, Board of Discipleship, Board of Pension and Health. And then what will happen is that our jurisdictions get to lift up names from that to be on those teams. So as we close here, we are going to say that we do have some great business coming up. We have missional engagement coming up. I think there's one more petition to talk about today, and then there's going to be some more information about General Conference, just some more summaries, because we want to make sure that we communicate well the beauty that is our General Conference and the opportunities we now have as a denomination to be more connectional and more contextual, and of course, be incarnational with that.
And blessings and mercies on all those who are moving appointments.
Oh,
They'll
yes,
be doing
exactly.
so in the coming weeks. So
in the coming weeks.
Blessings upon their journey and the churches they receive.
And once this comes out, we do know that we have a YouTube channel. If you're listening to us, go to our YouTube channel. You'll see us on there, but you'll also see all the worship services and plenary sessions should be on the YouTube channel by the time of this launching.
Yep. So if you want to participate in any of that, you can find that on the. And we've got live streams, we've got wrap-ups, we've got all the things.
You can relive the whole conference.
Yes, and of course, check the e-news for all the brief, the sort of synopses of that, everything that happened each day, what goes on, and the conference website.
So that you can stay connected with us.
And all of that will be in the description of that, because I don't remember all the websites and names of everything.
Yeah, it's a lot to remember.
Put it in the show notes. Yes, exactly.
Put it in the show notes. All right.
Thank you all.